All right, everybody, welcome back. Bio Bros, episode 16. This one is going to be about common myths and misconceptions about animals and pets. So each of us have three, so we're going to do our top six. Of course, there's a lot more out there, but we're going to cover a few that we think are a bit problematic or overblown, or just clear up the air on some of this stuff. So, Alex, you lead us off today. What's the first one you got on there?
All right. So the first one I'm gonna do today is gonna be the that goldfish have a 3-second memory. Um, this is simply just completely wrong. Goldfish have actually a much larger and longer lasting memory than anywhere near 3 seconds. There's actually been studies that goldfish can remember things for months and even years. They just are way more intelligent than the pet community gives them credit for, which partially I think is mostly because they're a uh, feeder fish that a lot of people use, so they don't want people feeling like as bad for them, I guess. Also, they don't want people feeling bad about throwing them in a bowl, even though they need a much larger enclosure.
Yeah, I completely agree on that one. I think it's not that they have a 3-second memory, it's that most of them are abused and tend to dehumanize things a little bit at that, even though they're not human. So, but
Yeah, it makes it
you
easier.
know what, example I have on this one actually is they discontinued this product. Some of you guys might remember this if you're a real OG in the game, the R2 Fish School. So look it up if you haven't heard of that before. I had one of these things, and I'd used it for my 7th grade science fair project, and I had a goldfish that could swim through a hoop. I didn't get to the point of training it to do all this other stuff that this fish school can teach you. It really isn't a scam, but they it could swim through a hoop on command. I would put the hoop in the tank, and it could swim through it, and I'd get a little treat, and it knew to do that every time. It was pretty cool, actually. Like, they're very intelligent. I mean, might not be able to solve a Rubik's Cube, but it can swim through a hoop and it can put a soccer ball in a soccer goal. They're no different than any other fish, really, at the core of it. Of course, there's thousands of species of fish. Some are going to be objectively smarter than others, but yeah, 3-second memory thing, that's a load of nonsense. I believe Mythbusters did a video, not a video, sorry, an episode on it as well, and they were able to train fish too using similar methods at R2 Fish School. There's some fun old videos of that. Uh, we were talking about it in the pre-show, and I think it's crazy. But yeah, definitely not true.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm gonna stick on the fish note for mine, and it's the fish don't have feeling. I don't know who came up with that. I know why they came up with it, so you wouldn't feel bad about killing fish. But they 100% have feeling. I read this whole book. Actually, let me grab it. It's right next to me so I don't butcher the title or author on accident. Sorry, you can cut this part out. Um, oh, right. Okay, I'm back. And this is by Jonathan Balcombe. I hope I didn't mispronounce your name. Sorry, Jonathan. If I did, What a Fish Knows, The Inner Lives of Our Underwater Cousins. It's a good book. You guys should read this. If you have not, big fan of it. It's fairly long and kind of nerdy, but it's good. Uh, and it in there details a few studies that were done, and it shows that fish feel pain. Every single study against every kind of pain stimulus, yes, they feel pain. Their animals feeling pain is very helpful for people in the world. Like if you can't feel pain, you don't know when you're injured, and you don't know when you need to, get medical attention. Even if it is very rudimentary medical attention, like hiding in a rock for a while until you feel better, which is like what a fish would be doing. So they 100% feel pain. That is true. In that book I was telling you about, they even use things like bee venom, and they reacted just like any other animal would to being stung by a bee. So yeah, they definitely feel pain. Don't torture fish because they
Yeah.
can 100% feel it.
Yeah, I don't recommend torturing any animals ever. Even if you think they can't feel it, just don't.
Yeah, kind of weird. But yeah, so that is a real thing. Like fish feel pain. I said I don't know who came up with it, but we know why, and it's so you don't feel bad about killing fish. And as you can see, like people don't treat them very well, and a lot of it is because of that myth. Like they truly believe they're not doing anything overtly wrong. Like they're gonna eat the fish,
Yeah.
right? Humans are omnivorous. We will eat animals. That is a thing. That's okay. But they truly don't believe they're doing anything wrong, but they are. So I want to clear that one up.
Um, so for my second one, I am going to do it's gonna be, that all turtles have salmonella. Again, this is one that's just blatantly wrong and blown way out of proportion. Um, can all turtles be a carrier of salmonella? Yes, it is possible, but it is very much so not likely. That was English. It's not very likely that every turtle has salmonella. Most turtles don't. Um, and really, the with reptiles and things like that, technically any reptile can carry salmonella, just like birds can carry salmonella. Um, unless you're messing with their feces or urates and things like that, and then like touching your mouth or like eating or something like that after, which one, that's disgusting. Uh, wash your hands. Two, that's really the only chance of you getting salmonella. You're not going to touch the shell of a turtle or touch the skin of a snake or a lizard and get salmonella from it. And it's also similar to like how all people say, "Oh, bats, they're carriers of rabies." Yeah, every human is a carrier of rabies as well, or able to carry rabies. Any mammal is able to carry rabies. So your dog, your cat, you. Um, it doesn't mean that every single one of them has rabies. It's actually very um, little amounts of bats actually have rabies. I think of the carriers of rabies, they're one of the lowest of any of them that actually have it. But same salmonella. It's not a super common thing. It's not like every single reptile has it. It's not like every single turtle has it. It's just they can be carriers for it. So wash your hands. Make sure you're not sticking your hands in your mouth and stuff after you've touched them, or clean their enclosure and things like that. As long as you
Yeah,
keep hygiene up, you're good.
yeah. Especially captive bred animals. If that animal's never been outside, how is it really gonna get salmonella? But I
Yeah.
got a couple little anecdotes in this one. My dad got salmonella from undercooked chicken, and he doesn't eat chicken anymore because of that as a kid. And so,
Understandable.
yeah, my in that case, you could use the same argument, be like, "My dad is a carrier of salmonella. I can't ever touch him again." Which we know is not true, right? He was treated for it, and he's all good. Um,
Mhm.
next little anecdote on this one is they're both these stories kind of go together, so I'll keep the one quick and I'll go into the other one a little bit more. So my grandpa knew somebody, I don't remember exactly who it was, who had a pet skunk and it lived in their house just like a dog or a cat would. Super cool, they loved the thing. And then a vet that they knew came over, saw a skunk and went, "That's a carrier of rabies. You got to put that thing down." And so they did. They euthanized their pet skunk, and it did not have rabies. This was years and years ago. So even all the way up to that level, people believe at a vet truly believe that because this animal was a skunk, it had rabies. As a veterinarian, which is crazy because it's not true. That skunk was most likely captive bred or taken from the wild for a long time and did not have rabies at all. It did not come into contact with it. No more likely to have rabies than your dog is. So that's crazy. Last one here. This one we'll get into a little bit more and kind of where this myth perpetrates from. So I was telling somebody that I had turtles. I was like, yeah, I have turtles. I love my turtles. I've had Had them since I was 5. And they're like, "Those have salmonella." And I'm like, "No, my turtles don't have salmonella. They don't. I know they don't. I could lick my turtle and I wouldn't get salmonella from it." No, that's not something I recommend for sure. Do not do that. But I know mine don't have salmonella. At the time they lived inside as well. So they didn't get it from anywhere else. And then this said person says, "Well, I had a coworker who their baby got salmonella from their turtle." And I was like, "Okay. Well, they probably weren't being clean. Why was the baby with the turtle like that?" Come to find out after a little more talking, the dad of the kid was cleaning the turtle tank with a rag, right? Just wiping off the glass, and then went and wiped off the baby's bottle with the same rag.
That's
So
disgusting.
that's where the salmonella came from. The salmonella came from that dude is really gross and got his baby sick because he was gross. That was not the turtle. That was very, very preventable. Yes, the salmonella bacteria, I believe it's bacteria, itself was present. Yes, it totally was. But he didn't have to give it to his baby. He could have been clean. E. coli is everywhere. It's all over. It's you probably came into contact with an E. coli bacteria today. But since we're
Mhm.
clean, we don't get sick from it. Salmonella is very similar. If you just wash your hands after you clean out your turtle tank, you're not getting salmonella.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's like money is the number one carrier for like all these diseases and things like that. What are you gonna do? Just stop handling cash at all? Like, no, as long as you're washing your
Yeah,
hands and stuff, you're fine.
yeah, be a clean person. Just
Yeah.
be clean,
Don't be
and
disgusting.
you'll be fine. You're totally cool. Yeah, don't use the same rag to clean your baby's bottle as you did your turtle's tank. You won't get salmonella. Totally safe pet to have. All
That is
right.
just insane.
Yeah. All right. Now this one here, this one, yeah, I've been kind of mad at this one recently. It's too big of an enclosure stresses out your animals, or they like the small tank.
Yeah.
That is not true. I Again, that one's perpetrated by people who are coping. In my opinion, this is in my opinion here. If you're educated on the matter, feel free to comment. I'd like to talk to you about it. But in my opinion, it's people who are coping and justifying their improper care of their animals. Clearly, that's my opinion. All right, guys, fight me on it if you want to. But how I see things. So, in the wild, there are no enclosures. That's true. All right, you're not fighting me on that one. Nobody's locking anybody in. I'm gonna use crested geckos as an example because I've heard this in crested geckos fairly often, actually. That like
Yeah.
they'll get stressed out and they won't find food. Alex, I'm sure you've heard that same thing.
Yeah.
They'll get stressed out, they won't find the food. But the problem comes in the people aren't offering food in a convenient, visible spot or in enough of a quantity for them to really tell. So they can 100% find their food. That's not a problem. Imagine if you could only live in what 1.5 square foot box, right? Or cubic foot, I guess. Um, then you probably have a lot of time on your hands, even if you're only a little 2-inch lizard. So all night you're gonna be moving around and moving around. And if that food's in a reasonable spot, they'll find it. They 100% will find it. Um, you hear this in snakes as well all the time. They don't like the big tanks. They don't like them. They get stressed out in there. It's too big. They like these little tubs. Not true. 100% not true at all. The studies that Alex has mentioned in previous episodes about every single ball python in captivity utilizing climbing surfaces.
Mhm.
Every single time it's ever been studied, they've utilized all usable areas of tanks. Yeah, I think they like that. They like to have different hides. They don't like to just have a warm side and a cool side. They like to have a warm hide and a cool hide and maybe a hide in the middle. Maybe a thing to climb up on. They like all that stuff. Remember, they're enclosed in these little areas. That's why we call it an enclosure. You should make it as big as possible. Even for animals that don't move a ton. There's lots of ambush predators out there that really don't move. They'll sit there. I know gaboon vipers will sit there for days and days and days, not move, weeks even, just not even flinch. Pac-Man frogs or similar pixie frogs like that. That doesn't mean that you give them barely enough space to sit there. Still give them some room. Remember, that's their whole life. A few weeks in your whole life are a lot different.
Yeah. No, I hate that myth too, and I think cresteds and leopard geckos I think are like the biggest ones I've heard that myth with.
Yeah,
Um,
I hear it with people who keep their ball pythons in racks as well.
that
They
too.
keep them in those way too small of racks, and they just be like, "Well, they actually prefer it." Well,
Yeah.
what evidence are you using to say they prefer it?
No
None?
evidence.
None, no, because whenever I see snakes that I look at them and I'd be like, "That snake is very healthy and it's mentally stimulated and it looks good." They're all big, like, bioactive or natural at the very least, naturalistic enclosures. They all seem to be more active and better. They seem to
Oh
refuse
yeah.
food less. They seem to just do overall better in larger, more mentally stimulating tanks. And I found that for all animals.
Mhm.
All of them. I kept animals in breeder standard tanks. 100% have. I was going to be a reptile breeder for a minute there and decided it wasn't for me. But yeah, I've had that before. And when I've moved my animals into naturalistic enclosures, they've increased activity level and stopped refusing food as often. Not that I had a huge issue with that, but it happened a whole lot less. They were moving around a lot more. Like everything just was better when they were in bigger, better tanks. So bigger's unless it's like a hospital tank or it's very tiny babies that are very sensitive and you need them to be easily locatable, go bigger. If
Yeah,
you need,
bigger's always better.
yeah, if you need to really monitor something, I get it. 100%, I get that. There's a reason the room at the hospital is not the size of your house. You know, that's okay. Temporary housing is different than permanent housing. We'll say that one because that is a counter argument a lot of people have.
Yeah. Well, so getting into my last one, it's gonna be poison versus venom or venomous versus poisonous. And this one's not like I guess like not exactly a myth per se. It's more of people think they can use them interchangeably, and they are two completely different things. So basically, venom, they have to have either fangs or some type of teeth of some form to inject the venom into you. And it goes through your body then after being injected. Poison, you have to ingest it or eat it or like touch it and rub it in your eye, or it has to somehow, you have to manually get it into your body. Um, like a perfect example basically is if it bites you and you die, it's venomous. If you bite it and you die, it's poisonous. And the biggest example that I have in my area is things like copperheads versus pickerel frogs. So copperheads, venomous snake, they have venom glands, they have fangs, they strike, they bite, they inject venom through their venom glands into their prey and whoever has a self-defense. Pickerel frogs, which is the only frog in the U.S. that is poisonous. The only frog. There we do have poisonous toads and things like that, but only true frog that is poisonous is a pickerel frog. They secrete a toxin through their skin that is it can be an irritant to humans. It prevents things like garter snakes and other frogs from eating them. It can even kill them if it does it. It prevents things like dogs and them from eating them because again, it can make them sick and possibly even kill them. It in So they have to be eaten to get the poison in you. They don't have to do anything but get touched or attempted to be eaten to get the poison in you. They're not sitting there biting you or anything like that. So basically, venomous versus poisonous. Venomous, if it bites you and injects venom, it's venomous. If you have to bite it or touch it and you get sick, then it's poisonous.
Yeah. I have a couple of little interesting things I'd like to add on that too. Intent matters too. Just
Mhm.
because if you get injected with bleach, that does not turn it into venom. It is still a
No.
poison. Venom kind of has to be designed to be injected and is biological. So like an animal has to make it. And then another one is um, poison usually is synthesized out of like external things. So I'll use poison dart frogs as an example. In captivity, poison dart frogs do not have poison. I guess we can even call that another misconception. Mini bonus one for you. Poison dart frogs aren't poison in captivity. There is a potential that the genus Phyllobates does produce its own toxin a little bit, just a little bit, but nowhere near as toxic as it is in the wild. And that's because of the bugs they eat. They eat bugs out there and they synthesize a poison out of them and secrete it. Whereas venom, for the most part, is created within the organism itself. They're born with it. They'll always have it in captivity, regardless of diet. To an extent, it's not a hard and fast rule. It's just little guidelines. Like Pirates of the Caribbean over there, not rules, just guidelines. Um, Venom in captive animals is sometimes different. There's like discussions of venomous snake keepers where we don't really know how nasty the venom is on some animals in captivity because nobody's really ever been bit in captivity by them versus in the wild. How different it is because we know it varies a little bit. Specifically with like Mojave rattlesnakes, I'll take that one. Crotalus succulatus, huge range in that snake and lots of different diets in there. And within that range, there's lots of different types of venom. Some are more neurotoxic, some are more hemotoxic, some are about 50-50 blend. So yes, diet does matter. And same thing for poison. Some animals will always have some sort of poison on them, but usually the bulk of that toxicity comes from environmental factors. So tiny little things there that I just think are interesting about poison versus venom. Uh, yeah, like you can drink venom. You can, as long as you don't have a cut in your mouth or like a stomach ulcer, something like that where it can get into your bloodstream, you can drink as much venom as you feel like, and you'll be totally safe.
Mhm.
But poison probably don't get poison near you. Right. Ooh, now we're gonna go to my last one. And this one I really don't like because it's right. It's gonna make sense in a second here. Because it is, they're right, just not in the right way, in the way you want it to be right. It only grows to the size of the tank. Well, you don't want it to get too big, just put it in a smaller tank. They only grow the size of the tank, right? Everyone's heard that. Who hasn't heard that one? You've been around for any amount of time in this hobby, you've heard that one.
Yeah.
Here's where they're right. They're right because they die before they outgrow the tank. Because they did outgrow the tank. They can't turn around, they can't move. Animals. This goes for fish, reptiles. Every animal is the same on this one. And it's just because they all die. And why they die is because the tank is too small. When the tank is too small, like physically limiting, which a lot of them are, especially in fish. You see fish they get short end of the stick on this one a lot. Goldfish and Oscars, biggest two I see it in. Their organs are still growing, but their physical body is not allowed to grow to the size it's supposed to be. Think about like Chinese foot binding, that very not cool practice that happened back in the day. It's trying to grow, but there's not enough room for it to grow. So the organs are still getting growth signals, and the whole body's getting growth signals, but specifically the organs. And they start growing, 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 and pressing up against each other until they crush each other and they die. So
Mhm.
goldfish, everyone says goldfish don't live very long. That's true. Goldfish don't live very long when you kill them because of those small bowls. They get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger in that bowl, and then their organs start growing, and they start having organ failure, and they die. My goldfish that are in 1,000-gallon pond, they're about a foot long, and they are, let's see, almost like I think the oldest ones are probably 6 years old by now. Just
Yeah.
fine,
I mean, it's
and they
similar
got
to I was gonna say, it's similar to, like, a human who gets, I think giantism is what the word or the actual thing is. It's where, like, basically they'll grow to a certain size. Their organs will not. So they end up passing because their organs are too small for them. But in the reverse, the organs are still the same size. They're still that average size. They're not going bigger or smaller based on the person or based on the animal. They're not going to go bigger or smaller. It's just what that species' organs grow to is what that animal's organs will grow to. And if that's too big for their body, they die. If it's too small for their body, they die.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's what happened. I believe it's what happened to my not my rattlesnake. I don't know why I said that one. My corn snake, Rocky. He was a runt. He was a Petco special, and he just never grew to full size. He was barely 3 feet long, almost 10 years old. Ate every single week for me. Just healthy weight, healthy body condition. Just wasn't going to grow. And I think what finally took him out was I think that his organs were just under more stress because his skeleton was not big enough. So I think he had stress on some of his organs that ended up cutting his life a little short. Um, I think that's the case. And I also believe that to be the case. I don't know if it's confirmed or not. Again, just my opinion on things. Short bodied animals, you see them a lot in fish. You'll see like fancy goldfish are all short bodied, like short body red tail catfish. Lots of monster fish people like to have in that short body. I believe that's why you don't see those that are 20 years old, but you see goldfish, normal common goldfish that are 20 years old fairly often. It's not terribly hard to find one if you're looking. I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
why it is too. I think it's the stunting of the growth puts pressure on the organs and eventually kills them. And it's you can really expedite that if you keep if you keep a fish that can get up to 14, 15 inches, we'll say an average adult goldfish is, in a bowl that's only 8 inches across, maybe. You can really expedite that process. And then you combine that with bad water quality and stress and all that. Not good for you. So that one really, really drives me insane. That is one of my least favorite myths ever because it's just because it's right. There's confirmation bias in it. So confirmation bias, logical fallacy. Well, how come you never see a fish get so big it cracks the tank? Well, because it dies before it gets to that point every time because of the too small of tank. So even though it technically doesn't like burst out of the tank still killed it because it wasn't properly sized. Um, but yeah, that's kind of it, really. A lot of these myths are kind of rapid fire, kind of quick. Um, I think they're important to talk about though. A lot of this stuff is just misinformation. Lots of old wives' tales. Lots of just confirmation bias. Like they only grow a side of the tank. They are right. Just their reasoning is wrong. Fish don't
Yeah.
have any feelings like that. That's just to mentally cope with doing bad things. I don't think any human enjoys killing things unless you got some sort of mental problem. So I think making it easier in some way makes it easier. And fish don't communicate like we do, so they don't show pain the same way we do, right? Um, poison and venom, that's just that's just a little bit of confusion. Nobody's gonna get you to if somebody's freaking out over poison and venom because you messed up a little bit, nobody really cares. If they're being annoying about it to annoy you, then yeah, their person's being annoying. Yeah, like all that kind of stuff. Uh, I think we'll wrap up on a couple. Let's do a couple rapid fire ones real quick. They're just like one sentence uh, of just debunking, and then we'll get out of here. The snake is sizing you up. It's going to eat you. Think about how
No, it's
terrible.
not.
Think about how terrible of a hunting strategy that is for a second here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna lay next to my prey real quick. I'm just gonna really let it know I'm coming for it, especially when you're a fat, slow snake.
Yeah.
Okay, that didn't happen. Not true. If a snake laid next to you, it's because you were warm and it was cold. Let's see. Next one, Alex. Throw one out, real quick one.
Snakes are slimy. They're not. They are
Yeah,
actually very silky smooth most of the time.
anybody who's ever said that has never touched a snake.
Yeah.
or really even taking a good look at one. A lot of snakes
Yeah.
look very dry. Let's see. See if I can get another one out here. Um, oh, this one. Reptiles are dumb. They're just not necessarily intelligent in the way that we value intelligence. They can't necessarily solve a Rubik's Cube, but a lot of reptiles are very, very smart, especially like monitor lizards. They can be trained very
Yes,
easily.
very much
Chameleons can
so.
be trained very easily. Um, I will give you the point. Not all reptiles are created equally. Snakes, all right. A lot of snakes aren't very smart. I'll give you that one.
It's okay, they're
Uh,
cute. They make up for it.
yeah, it's okay. All right, it's all right. And let's see. Do we have any others? Quick rapid fire one
I
over that.
think that's probably it.
Yeah, that's all I got right now, really. Um, yeah. All right, so we'll call that a wrap on this show here. If you have any more misconceptions, drop it in the comments. I like to hear them. There's so many of them out there. Those rapid fire ones are just off the dome for us. Just quick little one sentence ones that didn't need much elaboration. The main ones for the show, we kind of wanted to go into a little bit more because they could use a bit of explanation.
Yeah.
So we will see you guys on the next one, and like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and catch you later.
See y'all later.